So next I will be discussing about turkey feeding. So what do you feed to turkeys? Complete diet commercial food are often available in pellet, crumble or mash form and are preferred over mixed grains since they eliminate the need for individuals to pick and choose what they eat. Because large breed of turkeys eat so quickly, pelleted food rather than a mash or crumble with minute particles that can be ingested may be the best option. This problem can be avoided by soaking crumbled or mashed food in boiling water to make an oatmeal-like consistency. The big turkey may perform better with wet food, which are frequently easier for them to consume. Feeding young turkeys. Poults should be fed and watered as soon as possible after they hatch and as soon as they are put into the brooder house. The first feed can be starting mash or crushed pellet granules, which are placed in smaller feed and in small heaps of cardboard box covers, clean boards, pie plates, or cup plats underneath and close to the hover for the first day and second day. Many small lat-type feeders are needed. This feeder should at first be heaped with loose mash or granules to attract the poult's attention. Colored glass marbles or rolled oats can be placed on the feed and in the water also to attract the poult's attention. The starting feed and water should be kept continuously before the poults for the first 8 weeks. Note that pelleted mash can be fed after the first 4 weeks, but poults do not like it or they don't take it very well as their first feed. Liquid milk is not recommended for poults, but a good supplement for poults as well as a helpful food in teaching poults to eat is cottage cheese. Finely chopped tender green feed can guard against nutritional deficiencies and helps to encourage the poults to eat. Wilted green feeds should never be allowed to remain before the poults. Starting and growing diets. Turkey starter food has a higher protein content than chicken starter food. Different brands have different protein ratios in their formulations, but many recommendations recommended starting with 28% protein for the first 8 weeks of a turkey chick's life and then graduating to a 20 to 21% protein turkey grower food. If you choose to feed your turkey chicks a turkey starting diet, keep in mind that this food is designed for rapid growth, so keep a check on their weight and condition, especially if they are large breeds of turkey chicks. Attempting to free feed large breeds of turkey chicks may result in unhealthy weight gain. Therefore, you may need to feed them smaller meals more frequently, and of course, you'll have to be cautious. Starting diets. So, starting diets are to be fed during the first 8 weeks of the poult's lives, and this can be purchased ready mix. Feeds can be home mixed or custom mixed according to recommended formulas, or a concentrate can be purchased and mixed with ingredients such as ground corn and soybean meal according to the manufacturer's direction. So this is an example of a ration suitable for feeding turkey poults intended for any purpose in any environment. It is an all-mash, complete, high-energy feed needing no supplements except water and is capable of producing a high rate of growth. This mash contains about 29% protein, 1.5% calcium, and 1.1% total phosphorus. If coccidiosis seems likely to occur, Add a recommended coccidiostat at preventive level. Supply water, free choice, and insoluble grit may be provided if desired. Growing diets. Growing diets or growers are fed to poults from 8 weeks of age to maturity. These diets may consist of mash only or pellets only, or they may include either loose or pelleted mash plus whole or cracked grain, sometimes referred to as scratch grain. Pelleted mashes usually must be purchased. Loose mashes can be purchased or can be home or custom mixed. A commercial concentrate can be purchased and combined with ground grain or with soybean meal and ground corn in proportions recommended by the manufacturer and according to the age and sex of the bird. Special methods of fattening or finishing are unnecessary because the birds are fed all the regular growing feed they will eat up to the time of marketing. The table below shows an example of a growing diet used in turkey rearing. This growing diet is a mash and grain nutritionally complete feed suitable for turkeys grown on range or in total confinement. Supply insoluble grit, water, scratch grain, and the mash, all free choice. This mash contains about 21% protein, 2% calcium, and 1% total phosphorus. So this is an example of the protein and energy requirement of turkeys. Feeding and feed requirement of turkeys. Turkeys require higher amount of proteins, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals as compared to chicken. So as you can see here, proteins from 0 to 4 weeks need to be higher and it decreases over time. That is the case also for lysine, methionine, and in methionine. It decreases as the ages of the turkeys increase. Feeders and waterers. Fresh, clean water should always be available to turkey chicks. Water should be lukewarm, neither too cold or too hot. A chick fountain is a good water option because an open dish is not advised because they would track through it and leave droppings. Another advantage of a chick fountain is that it keeps chicks from getting wet and cold if they fall into the water dish. If you absolutely must use a water dish, make it shallow and fill it with rocks or stones that are too large for the chicks to consume. This allows the chicks to access little pockets of water without risking drowning in a large open dish. To keep chicks from scratching their food and bedding into the ground, feeders should be constructed so they can be moved from time to time and away from contaminated locations. For turkeys of 8 weeks age, allow 2 linear inches of feeding space, counting both sides of true feeders per bird. For older turkeys, including the breeding stock, allow 1 linear inch of feeding space per bird. True type feeders are relatively inexpensive and are easier to construct, but they require more frequent filling and more labor to operate. So the picture below shows an example of a true type feeder for turkeys over 8 weeks of age. Large capacity square wooden or round metal hopper type feeders holding 1/2 ton or more of feed are more efficient than true type feeders and allow the use of mechanized feed handling equipment. For outside use, feeders should have a waterproof and windproof cover and a rain guard and should be placed on skids for easy moving and for bringing the smooth lip of the feeder to a proper height. So this feeder on figure 28 is an example of a large capacity portable hopper type feeder with a rain guard for turkeys over 8 weeks of age. So the next picture is an example of feeders for outside use. One feeder 10 feet long, 12 inches wide, 18 inches high with a hang top for each 100 birds is satisfactory. So this is an example of feeder for 100 birds, seen here in the picture below. General suggestion on feeding. The energy, protein, vitamin, and mineral requirements for turkeys are higher when compared to chicken. Since the energy and protein requirements for both sexes vary, they must be reared separately for better results. Feed and water should be kept before the turkeys constantly from hatching to market age. Put all feed in feeders and never on the ground. Changes from starting to growing matches or changes in the growing matches can be made quickly without using special methods, but changes in watering methods for young birds under 5 weeks old should be made carefully to prevent damage from water glut. So whenever changes are made from one diet to another, it should be carried out gradually. Turkeys require a constant and clean water supply all the times. Provide more number of waterers during summer and feed turkeys during the cooler parts of the day during the summer. Vitamin D, which prevents rickets, is necessary in starting diets and desirable in all diets. But as a rule, it is not necessary in growing and breeder feeds provided that the birds have access to direct sunlight. Where direct sunlight is restricted or absent, add dry vitamin D, the preferred source, to the diet in quantity sufficient to provide about 1,500 chick units of vitamin D per pound of mash that is fed free choice with grain, or about 900 units per pound of all mash diets. Fish meals, though an excellent protein supplement, may impart an undesirable fishy flavor to turkey meat. Therefore, in growing and finishing diets, assuming that no other fish products are in the feed, fish meal of good quality should be limited to that amount that on the basis of its oil content would not provide over 0.3% oil in the total diet. Fish oils and poor quality fish meal should be avoided in all turkey diets since they are a prolific source of fishy flavor. However, if it's necessary to use fish oil to supply vitamin D or vitamin A or both, use a concentrated product and limit it to about 0.15% of total feed consumed. Also, limit fish meal to that amount that would provide not over 0.15% additional oil.